He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minute of the Phantasm. This is the new experimental podcast that can only be interpreted through lip reading. I am the host. That was the bit. That was the whole joke.
That was epic.
But yeah, I'm not. Oh my god.
I didn't get it till just now.
I am your other host, John Parker, who now feels obliged to broadcast live from Madagascar at least once.
I was like, we missed out on that Coolio cameo, the Coolmeo, last season because Coolio tragically died.
How dare he die before we got that cameo?
He knew, like, we're so close to getting the money together to pay him to do a cameo, and then he's just like, I'm out, baby, and just died.
That's also how I get out of shit that I don't want to do.
Fake your death and move countries, that's what I do.
I was like, yeah, everyone says, like, oh yeah, it's Alexia in quotes all the time whenever you see your name written down. But yeah, so when we put all that money together, we can maybe go and broadcast live from Madagascar somewhere.
I think we should. I mean, I said it as a joke, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I kind of want to do that, though.
I would destination record from almost anywhere.
But yeah, that of course is the voice of the guest who was on last minute. That's quote-unquote Alexia from Titanic Talkline.
Yeah, I'm here.
If that is your real name, we're on to you.
It's totally my real voice, too.
We are here today to talk about minute 42 of Masks of the Phantasm, which opens with Andrea dispensing a drink. And it ends a minute later with some sinister surveillance. Yeah, this is, as you were saying there last minute, Alexia, it's just real into... It's playing very heavily on some archetypes.
Yeah.
The term is apparently the Hoxian woman.
Oh.
It was sort of a character infamous in film noir. And I think we talked about earlier in the season. I can't remember if we brought it up or was this a note I made to go like, oh, mention that later. But Andrea Beaumont is her character model is based on Lauren Bacall.
Yeah, you can totally see that when you know.
Yeah. And these kind of scenes, like this scene's basically like it's kind of directly out of To Have or Have Not. You know, the Howard Hawks movie, the first movie where she hooked up with Humphrey Bogart. Oh. And she was, at that time, you wouldn't believe it because you're just like, oh, she sounds like she's like a worldly, well-traveled woman. But Lauren Bacall was 19 and Humphrey Bogart was 25 years older than her.
Oh.
Yep.
And they met in that movie, and then Humphrey Bogart mysteriously divorced his wife and got together with Lauren Bacall.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
There's a lot of interesting, like, when you look, especially at older Hollywood, at these, like, older Hollywood get-togethers about, like, convenient adoptions all of a sudden.
Yeah. I know all the... Because I'm a big fan of Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know she hooked up with Ewan McGregor after they did Fargo together, but then he left his wife and 2 kids, and then she left her husband, and it's all very, like... What's the timeline, though? Like,
yeah.
'cause it's, like, I don't want to go into your personal lives or anything, but, like, if Ewan McGregor was cheating on his wife with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, it's gonna leave a bit of a black mark on both their reputations, quite frankly.
It shouldn't affect things, but it would sour me on them. Yeah.
But if he left the wife first and was like, well, I'm leaving you because I want to go be with someone else.
Yeah,
that's fair enough, you know. But it's just it depends if there was subterfuge involved in the whole scenario. But Humphrey Bogart dating a 19-year-old when he's like 45 is pretty like.
And I know that's technically okay, but it's not really, is it? It's
no,
like, it's weird.
Not at all.
It's I think it was Miley Cyrus's SNL sketch. Just, you people are gross to me. That's disgusting.
Also, like, I mean, I'm only 37, and I wouldn't want to spend time with a 19-year-old in any capacity. They're annoying.
No. Not at all. No.
I dated someone 4 years younger than me, and sometimes that was a lot.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
See, there you go. Like that's like, it's weird to me. It's odd.
I think we have a friend who dated. We had a long-term relationship with someone when she was 19, he was 30.
Ew.
And I remember I kind of did a thing. I'm like, well, it's a little bit weird. And he's like, why would it be weird? And I was like, well, it's just
Okay.
It's very young, But I think it's more of a kind of like, well, you've been through your 20s. That's a big development period. She has yet to do that. That's like,
your biggest sort of era of change.
Yeah. So I just feel like, well, what would you even talk about? Like, I don't really get what the conversation would be. But
maybe it works for some people. Maybe it does, but I don't. Yeah. I can't see how.
Yeah. But no, I do think everything that's happening here, this business of going over and pouring the drink, and just the darkened room, but you can almost see like the light coming in through the window shades, all that. It's very designed to be like she was already a Hoxian woman, which was the film theory term is a character archetype of the tough talking woman popularized by director Howard Hawks. As associated with people like Rosalind Russell, Barbara Stanwyck, Angie Dickinson, Katharine Hepburn. But yeah, very originated with Bacall. And I heard, like, if you ever hear Lauren Bacall talking, like I said, I would never have known she was 19 because she talks and it's very deep, very, very sensuous, very kind of, there was rumors going around for years that she had taken up smoking just deliberately to get her voice to sound more deep and distinctive.
That wouldn't surprise me back then. That wouldn't be too weird.
Oh, totally. Like, I think
it'd be very normal.
She said, like, she always denied it, but then this is, back in the day, there used to be like Joan Crawford would get her back teeth removed, so it would suck in her cheeks and all this kind of.
Oh no, really?
Crazy things. Oh yeah, a lot of weird stuff happening back then.
People think that, like, these extremes of body image are, for celebrities are a new thing. It's obvious. No.
Oh, no. It's freaking destroyed Judy Garland and stuff.
Yeah.
Hollywood's a horrible place. The more you look into Hollywood's old history, the golden age is like, oh man, that's a festering cesspit right there.
You basically don't want to look up any of the actors.
Yeah.
No, never.
Yeah. And there was that
You're eventually going to find your way back to that Fatty Arbuckle party, and it's all just going to go straight down.
And I remember he had a brief thing where, like, people were like, his reputation was destroyed for decades. Yep. Then people started turning into like Fatty Arbuckle like apologists for a bit. And we're like, well, wait a minute. Well, I think we've judged this guy too harshly, and now it's flipped back again. Where it's like, no. I think we were right the first time. But yeah. So I even noticed though, Dana Delaney's voice here, she's kind of lowering her register, and she's kind of, I don't know if she's wanting to speak in more hushed tones because you don't want to wake the neighbors or anything. But I think she's kind of putting on more of an affectation of almost like a Lauren Bacall kind of lilt to her voice as well.
It's a particular way of talking, and I think that we talked about it in the previous minute where I was be critical of it, but because it happens a lot, but it is very evocative in that way where, as soon as you put on that affect, it brings an aspect of that character in that you don't then need to build.
Yeah. And so then she goes pour herself a drink. I'm assuming vodka, because it appears to be like a clear liquid. It's in a brown bottle, so I was like, oh, it's whiskey. And then it's like, no, it comes out clear.
Yeah, that surprised me, because normally if you're going for like a film noir kind of thing, it would, she'd be pouring like a bourbon.
Yeah, totally. We know now that they had like clearance to have people smoking in this and have people getting punched in the face and all that stuff. So I don't think anything would have been stopping them from making it a bourbon. Maybe. And that brown bottle indicates to me that you don't put vodka in brown bottles. That's just weird.
I thought it was wine at first, and then I was wondering why she was putting ice in a glass that was going to have wine in it.
I've seen some people do that with white wine, which I find very odd, and I'm pretty sure any wine aficionados would be like, don't do that.
That's again, I always do bring things back to Frasier, but there's a great episode where he wants to go out and just have like a meaningless fling with someone, and he bumps into Jennifer Tilly, and Jennifer Tilly's kind of like sex pot kind of character she always plays, and she's like, she just wants to have a shag as well, and they're trying to seduce each other up in the apartment, and she's really laying it on thick, but at one point she's like, yes, I got some ice for our wines. And just Frasier having to hold back to kind of like, yes, very good.
He's repulsed.
Although, weirdly, speaking of Frasier, that was a thing I only realized in editing. We forgot to bring up way ages ago, because we talked about Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. He attended the Juilliard.
Yes.
I always love. I'm sure it's just called Juilliard, but I always love calling it the Juilliard. And while he was there, he was like roommates with Robin Williams. And he hung out with Kelsey Grammer, Frasier. But one thing, I didn't. I don't know if I just didn't know back then, or when I came from the interview after we did that episode. But Dana Delaney was great friends with Christopher Reeve, the eponymous Superman of the 70s. And some people say even still the greatest Superman there ever was. And at the same time, at the Juilliard, when Kevin Conroy was studying, he almost dormed with Christopher Reeve.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, and apparently the reason he didn't was because he was too poor. Christopher Reeve is he's from good stock. He's not quite blue blood, but he's from Christopher Reeve's dad. His name's it's like a very fancy name. It's like Franklin de Olier Reeve or something like that. It's
posh as it.
He was an acclaimed academic and poet, and he worked at Princeton.
Is he from Old Money?
I don't know if it's old money or it seems like the kind of guy who would have been his ancestors would have been. Well, apparently his dad invented the American Legion.
I thought you were going to say he invented the question mark.
Sometimes he accused chestnuts of being lazy. But I think they strike me as the type of family who would have been we're adventurers back in the day. We just have a pith helmet and natives ready to carry our teapots with us, kind of. Isn't
that the goal of all of mankind, to live that way?
I actually believe they legitimately came over in the Mayflower. They're that the Reeves go back that far, and Christopher Reeve's day school when he was growing up was Princeton Day School, so he comes from swanky background, and then. Well, Dana Delaney doesn't at all. She apparently knew him back when they were kids, and her dad was a plumber and all this stuff. Although he did invent a thing for the toilet that made them millionaires, so actually maybe she was quite wealthy as well. But apparently then Kevin Conroy, as we've covered, had a horrendous life growing up, horrible family, pretty much impoverished. Him and Kelsey Grammer, when he was at Juilliard, used to live on a bench. All this kind of stuff. They were really from the other side. So he talks about meeting Christopher Reeves. I hung out with him sometimes, but he was over in the nice area of campus, and me and Robin Williams were stuck in the friggin' that's the hovel that was there for us. But apparently Robin Williams and Christopher Reeve also amazing friends as well. He said after Christopher Reeve had his accident and obviously paralyzed. Robin Williams was the first man to come in to try to cheer him up, because apparently he felt so guilty about John Belushi's death because he wasn't there for John Belushi. He was I'm not letting this go. So apparently when Christopher Reeve was lying in the hospital, Robin Williams came in disguised as a doctor and put on a big thick German accent and started pretending to be a proctologist and all this kind of stuff. And apparently Christopher Reeve thought this was hilarious.
Oh, that's very Robin Williams. That's great.
Yeah.
But all these guys all linked in the middle of all that too. Kelsey Grammer is bouncing around there somewhere, and also Kevin Conroy too. So
basically every single thing Niall likes was created in that moment.
Yeah. It was, the weird thing, the thing I would like the least out of all those things is weirdly Robin Williams, because I don't have any beef with Robin Williams. I just love all the other things more.
I don't think anyone had any beef with Robin Williams, and if they did, they're wrong.
No,
agree.
Yeah.
Well, except was it Patch Adams? That was terrible. But,
I think he made several bad movies, but come on. I think his heart was in the right place.
Exactly, he was doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah. I was asking so where's your dad, basically, and she's like, oh, I don't know, try Madagascar. To which Batman then just goes full on, just grabs the hand and everything. He's just really gets it full tilt, I'm Batman and I'll break your jaw if you don't tell me
that is not cool, dude. No, I know you're angry that she's clearly lying, but
you have to ask before you touch people.
Yeah.
Although
and she does not want to be touched.
Although Michael Keaton did not as physically aggressive, but if you remember, he did prevent Vicky Vale from leaving by putting his arm out in front of her to stop her walking away when she was drunk and he was sober.
Well, even when they were sober, I remember in his apartment, she gets up to leave and he shoves her into a chair.
Yeah.
And says, "You're a nice girl and I like you a lot, but shut up." And it's just weird, but it's one of the worst minutes of any Batman movie, just in multiple levels. But that was the thing. We're well, okay, this is bad.
That's how I treat nice people too. When I meet a nice person, I just shove them into a chair and I'm sit the fuck down.
Hey, there's nothing.
And then I
wrong.
don't know why they're not nice anymore. It's really confusing.
There's nothing wrong with doing that if it's what both parties are into, shall we say?
Oh, but if it's part of an ongoing
A key party.
Yeah.
by all means. But like, I don't think Bruce Wayne didn't know. I think.
Actually, I suppose him and Andrea did have a very physical relationship, and I don't mean in a sex way. I mean, they like to, play fight.
I think this is more that he is treating her like because he doesn't want to get emotionally involved himself.
Yeah. It's
So
more
he's
like
treating
you're
her
a
like any
generic crook that I'm going to interview.
Yeah, like I will snap this wrist if I have to. That kind of thing.
So I'm not super familiar with, obviously, the Batman franchise, but just thinking back, obviously, from what you guys know, and particularly with animated versions, just because animated is often a little different, how does Batman treat female criminals in general? Like when he encounters like Poison Ivy or Harley Quinn, is he equally handsy with them? Is he very grabby of them?
Oh, totally. Yeah. He's old.
Okay.
It's very he's an equal rights crime fighter. He's like, no,
So
I'll
I didn't
kick
know
her
if
in
he
there
was
as well.
what. Well, because I have very limited exposure to his character, and he seems very standoffish. So I guess it's super interesting that all of a sudden he's like grabbing her hand. Because if I'm mad at somebody, I don't want to be all up in their business. That's me personally. I just didn't know. It's like, is he trying to be extra grabby because it's her?
No,
or
he
is,
would.
or this is normal. This is normal. Okay.
This is he would do this with anybody. Is the thing. I think that's why it's like he's using the Batman persona as a kind of like, no, I'm gonna just treat you as if you were like Johnny Gobbs.
Yeah, he wants to present Batman to her, not Bruce.
To your point, Alexia, there is a moment in Batman Returns, which is obviously different continuity and stuff, but like
Sure.
When he's fighting Catwoman, he like just punches her and she falls on the ground and goes like, how could you? I'm a woman. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then she like scratches his face and throws him off a building.
Yeah,
and
but
from
that
then on
movie's
in,
kinky as hell now.
Batman Returns is like, that was when our PG rating for the show went out the window. Because it was just like, this is leather and rubber fetishists straddling each other, licking each other's faces. Like, what? There's no way to talk about this in a PG fashion.
I don't remember what it was, but speaking of Catwoman, but I think my boyfriend sent me a GIF a while ago of probably the animated show. Catwoman unzipping her jumpsuit and then pulling her whip out of what I presume was her cervix based on just where she put her hand. I was like, where was that? Number one. And number two is like, that was overtly sexual. She may as well have written SEXUAL just like down the center of her chest as she undid the zipper, just be like, look at the sexy sex.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of
Sorry for the listeners at home, I was like fake unzipping my t-shirt for no reason because my words weren't adequate. I had to be weird about it.
You've got to act it out. You're like me. I'm hands-on. I'm gesticulating.
I'm a hands-on learner. We're like Batman. We got to grab it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing with the animated continuity is that there is a lot of like really overt sexualization of women in it. To some point where you're just like, it's a bit much, guys.
Well, that's the thing, because the difference with Returns is,
or the Joel Schumacher movies too. They were both very, very equal-handed with their kinkiness.
The women as well, when they're being sexual, it's more like they're the ones in control. It's different. Like I can't think of any character who's really... Even Vicky Vale's not really seen as particularly sexual. And then when there is a sexual person like Catwoman, it's like, oh, she's very physical with it.
This scene is very, in a weird way, is echoing... Well, the movie hasn't been made at this point, but like Chase Meridian in when Batman comes to her balcony in Batman Forever. And she's in total control of that situation. Batman shows up in his rubber outfit. And she's naked in a silk sheet.
Oh yeah, she's like, I'm having you.
Yeah, it's very much like, you are here. You have come to me. I've called you in, and now we're going to do this, Batman. And they don't have sex in that movie, even though apparently in the original script there was a whole sex scene where she's like, keep on the mask and stuff. And that's the Schumacher cut I want to see.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised though, because there was always, every single, woman character, especially in Batman anime cartoons, is created to be sexual, like every single one. Unless they're like old crony women, but other than that, it's like you're either meant to be old, and you don't matter and you're just here because you have to be, or you're a piece of ass.
Well, if Hollywood's taught me anything, it's that they're the only two types of women.
Yeah, in between then we just go into hiding. That's where all the capes come from. I'm actually only allowed out because I'm accompanied.
But then she does, of course, say, like, I'll try Madagascar. So I'm thinking crossover coming here with Batman interrogating David Swimmer as a depressed giraffe and encountering evil penguins. It's like he'd be right at home in the Madagascar universe.
I forgot that was a movie.
Oh, I'm hanging around with, from doing babysitting, I'm hanging around with a lot of kids. I've seen those Madagascar films quite recently.
First one wasn't bad.
I've seen the first one once when it came out. That's it.
I remember everybody loved those penguins for a while, and then they got their own TV show, and then the world turned on them. They were like the prototype Minions.
Yeah, the Minions were great in that first one.
And then
they just ruined it completely. And now, like 50, 60-year-olds on Facebook post memes with Minions in them. I know, I'm not interested. Stop.
I think
and they always have like weird right-wingy like phraseology on them too.
Yeah.
It's always always really generic. Like, it's always really terrible jokes as well. But I think it's gone through, like, it's broken through into, like, I think now the young generation younger than us will do that, taking the piss kind of thing.
But that's dangerous. Let me tell you, if any kids are listening, it's dangerous, right? Because you start doing stuff ironically, and you can't stop.
Yep, 100% true.
Like loads of
the people who can't stop saying bruh and things like that. Just stop. Don't do it.
Loads of my vocabulary I started off saying as a joke.
Yep.
And now I'm trapped, and now I look like a fool.
Yeah. I keep calling people like G-Dog and things like that. It was done ironically originally. Now it's just that's the way I talk.
Yep. And
I say dude a lot because, surfer culture was a huge thing in the 90s and 2000s. I say dude a lot. And like, because, like the Valley Girl thing was like a big deal when I was growing up. Like, so like that's totally part of my speech sometimes.
Yeah. Which is maybe we didn't have you on last year. Like I said, when we were dealing a lot with Alicia Silverstone, playing Batgirl, like one of the grand Valley Girl archetypes.
And we did our bonus episode about the Clueless TV show last Christmas.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm not normally a big fan of like throwback commercials, like whenever they do commercials that bring something back. But this year for the Super Bowl, they brought Alicia Silverstone back to really be Cher again.
Oh, and she looked amazing.
She was so good too, and it was so funny. I loved it. I was like, this is how you flashback a commercial.
She looks like she hasn't aged more than like 2 years. I was like, what the hell?
Speaking of not aging, she and Paul Rudd could make the movie again today.
Yeah. I felt a bit bad though because Alicia Donovan was also in that advert, but like nobody cared about her. Like, I was in Clueless too. I'm back, and they're like, yeah, but you're not Alicia Silverstone.
Get out of the way.
Like, go back and make the dog who saved Hanukkah, whatever the hell you're making these days.
But the bit you mentioned there about Madagascar, to me, because that was a weird choice, right? Saying that, to me, it again puts the year this is set in kind of in flux, and I love that because in the past, like early 1900s, people used to go to Madagascar a lot on holiday. Like pre-World War II, let's say. It was a prime destination. People in England would go all the time and stuff. Not so much now.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't hear about all your friends going, I'm going to Madagascar.
Would you like update it to like, try Benidorm?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, unfortunately, all the English people do go there.
Things are getting weird. And this is like, it's a good thing Andrea is spoiler of the Phantasm. Because what Batman says next, if she was like a normal woman, this would be terrifying. Where she's like, because he's just like, no, that's not what you told Reeves. You said you're closer than ever with your father. And she's like, oh, you had me bugged. Is that it? And he's like, I can read lips. And that's like, that's basically saying like, your crazy ex is everywhere. He can see what you're saying to people because he's watching you all the time.
He's clearly watching you through binoculars as well.
Yeah. Like that would be like horrifying. Like maybe that's why she's crying at the end. She's like, oh my God. Like, I'll get away from this psycho.
I'm the world's most powerful stalker.
Yeah.
Imagine finding that out about someone. Again, because of their connection. If it was just like, oh, she knows who Batman is, you'd be like, okay, it's a bit creepy. But they were such a strong couple. They were going to get married.
Yeah. So this would be fair enough if he's saying this to like Killer Croc.
Yeah.
But to say it to like you're my ex-fiance and you broke my heart, now you're back in town, and yes, unbeknownst to you, I have been literally surveilling and am able to read all your conversations.
And I'm
that is
remembering
horrifying.
them. Yeah, I'm using it against you as a weapon.
So now that we're discussing it out loud and it sounds awful, it's just sounding more and more like Christian Grey from 50 Shades of Grey, where it's just like nothing about this is good. Where it's like, yeah, the most rich man in town, who is also, you know, the most powerful man in town, just came into my apartment, told me that I'm lying, and then he knows that I'm lying because he's been stalking and surveilling me for weeks, and then he just leapt out my window like a trapped bird, and I'm just supposed to hang out here with my weird drink. And it's like, this is what happened here. I just dismissed one dude that I wasn't interested in seeing, and then another one that I didn't want to see popped up in my house.
Oh, I know. I'm the same, you know. You just can't get rid of these men. Oh.
No, like these stalkers just fly in your window. That's why you have to remember to close it and lock it when you leave.
Absolutely.
I am certain, though, she probably did lock that thing.
Probably.
And now she's have to deal with the hotel people going like, what the hell, why is this lock busted? Like, what happened there? It's like, oh my goddamn ex-fiance.
Like,
I'm so
exactly.
sorry.
It's like, I'm so sorry, my crazy ex just showed up and he just wouldn't leave.
It's like, I'm going through a lot right now. I was out to dinner one night, and apparently we were on like the 50th floor. How did he see me?
He's been watching me, for God's sake. Somebody
It
help.
was pouring rain outside. Was he out on a ledge with the binoculars in the
That's
pissing
exactly
rain?
what I'm picturing him like a gargoyle on the ledge across.
That's
just-
exactly what happened.
I said, we're not joking. Like, that's an actual scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Batman.
Oh, that's really
like
funny.
Yeah. Oh, it's a hilarious shot of Arthur Reeves. The
He's
two
like
of them.
ChernaBat and Fantasia, just the top of a mountain, like staring.
Oh, getting
that's not-
an early plug in there for that for the new Disney podcast. There.
The only reason I knew what that was called is because I had to watch that recently.
That was one in my rewatch. Gave up midway through Fantasia. I was like, I'm out. Sorry, I get it. I think I've seen enough.
I wasn't paying all that. I was playing WoW in the background, just like listening to music.
Also, you say that you knew that because you've been watching those movies, but we're how far into Miami Connection are we on our other show, Niall?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we're still like 40 minutes in. The other day, we're still like, so this character's called Jack, right? And
nope,
he's called Jim. And like, no, this actor's called Jack Diamond. No, he's called Joseph. Like, we've been doing this for 40 weeks. How do we not know this yet?
Eventually, details just become blurry, though. I think that, listen, life is complicated.
Yes.
And things happen.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Sometimes shit happens, and who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters.
Yep.
But Batman, he accuses her here of following her dad's orders. But she comes back, I think, with a sick burn. Because she says, the way I see it, the only one in this room controlled by his parents is you. Oof, got him.
She says it while loftily swirling her drink around.
That's how you establish dominance.
Exactly. That was a power move. The stance, she's like holding it up, looking at him sideways, swirling her drink, being sassy. Everything she's doing is like basically just going, ha, 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 ha.
It's everything too, like even the build up to it. It's like, for some reason, because of her aggressiveness, I always put in other words. Because, he's like, I can read lips. And she's like, well, read them now. Get out. And every time I'm thinking she's about to say, get f***ed or get bent. Yeah, because the way she says it is with so much venom. She might as well be saying, like, oh, yeah, go f*** yourself, Bruce.
It might have been the original script. And then when they were going back and editing, they were like, yeah, we can't say that.
It would be justified, though. I'd be on her side.
Agreed.
Yeah. One thing I will say, though, in terms of not the original script, but the novelization, not many differences. But I think they did a good job, though, of, kind of getting into Bruce's internal mechanisms here. Because it keeps emphasizing, like, he's terrified himself during the scene because he's like, this is the love of my life has come back. I have to talk to her for the first time in 10 years. And so it just keeps emphasizing that his heart's going like a mile a minute, and he's really, really, he's like, it is all a front to him. He's just like, okay, I'll just have to go full Batman on this because if I let any of this go, it's gonna get emotional, It's and that's why that's why the burn is so sick that she throws at him because like she's like the only, barring like Alfred and, you know, Dick Grayson, she's like the only other person in the world who can say this to him. Like, because she knows. And not only does she know, she's the only other person who saw him, like, literally on his knees in front of his parents' grave, asking for permission to, like, go out with her, basically. And so she's hitting on such a raw nerve. Like, it's kind of like a general thing you can say to Batman is like, oh, asshole, you're the only one who's controlled by your parents here is you. But, you know, because of the scenes we've seen with them, it's so personal that he's like, that was like the most vulnerable I've ever been, and you're throwing it back in my face? What a dick. So yeah, it's it is the saltiest of moments.
It's a great line. I love it.
Yeah.
I have a question for the two of you.
Mm.
If you were, you know, a superhero with your secret identity, and you needed, because he needs to have this conversation with her. That's not like an excuse to see your ex. She's relevant.
Yeah.
And you needed to talk to your ex because it was relevant. Would you choose to go as yourself, or would you choose to go as your alter ego?
Right. Okay. I think his logic is he wants to distance himself from the relationship, so he's going as Batman, right? But I would do the opposite, and I think, I don't know if that would be better or worse, but I think I would go as me to sort of leverage that prior connection. Because it might make her sympathize with your goals a little more, you know, like without you having to get handsy.
It is a good question. If he had just shown up as Bruce Wayne, would all the aggro be there? Like,
that's what I'm wondering, because I'm thinking, me personally, like if I was a superhero, if I show up in someone's life, like especially an ex who hasn't seen me in a really long time, and I show up dressed as someone that is usually associated with combat, that sets your tone.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's, again, I mean, this is different because she's got her own agenda, but it's sort of like, I wonder if he had showed up as Bruce himself and just been like, because obviously she knows who he is, just talked to her, or even, you know, as soon as she saw him turn on the light, he just took his mask off and was like, yeah, it's me. I'm here to talk to you.
Yeah.
That would work if he took it off when she talks about the mask, like if he removed it.
I mean,
to make it more of a literal face-to-face conversation, and like Bruce and Andrea instead of Batman and the Phantasm having a chat.
I just wonder too, like if her methodology had been like, instead of been like, so we meet again. Like if she had instantly gone into like, oh Bruce, I'm so sorry about everything that happened, would he be like, okay, like would he take the mask off and get into it? Is it just because he's going in with a front and she responds in kind?
I think that it's on him to set the tone, though, because he's the one that he surprised her.
Yeah.
This was not a planned meeting. If this was a planned meeting, it might be a little different. She was not expecting him, so he had every element to set the tone. And he chose to hide in the darkness in his full Batman costume. Like, that was a choice.
Yeah.
We already established that he clearly agonized over whether or not to leave the window open, so he clearly chose where he was going to stand.
Let's wonder if he realizes, too, that, like, this is a thing we've had to cover in recent weeks, in that in this continuity, as presented in this movie, Bruce had no interest in, like, a bat motif, like, as being his crime fighter thing, up until the moment he got engaged to Andrea. Like, an ominous swarm of bats came out from under the ground to kind of signal, like, this is doomed, you know, this thing. And from then, it's kind of like his thing became bats. And it's almost as if they're just recharging his pain to remember, like, the fiance that he lost as well. Not only the parents that he lost, but also, like, he's working in a bit of the pain of losing Andrea as well to, like, fuel himself. And I wonder if she's just like, so Bruce, this whole bat motif, is that to do with me? Like, is this, because we're already in the crazy emo stalker territory, but if you're telling me you are literally Batman, and you're only that particular motif is because of what happened when we got engaged. That's that's also a bit like, dude, 10 years, let it go, you know? But at the same time, again, he was in this, you know, friggin' at his parents' grave asking, you know, for permission to get out of his vow and stuff like that. So I guess maybe she's like, you know what? Maybe she's into it. She's like, oh, I like a man who's who's dementedly committed to things.
There's committed, and then there's what Bruce does.
Yeah,
you know.
But I mean, if you in your day-to-day life, Alexia, if you got engaged to someone, and then a swarm of bats appeared, and then the engagement fell apart, and down the line they became a crime fighter based around bats, do you think would it be egotistical to be like, is that to do with me? Or would you be instantly like, oh my god, it's so creepy? Like, why are you doing that, man?
I think I would just be like, what's with the bats?
Oh, that'd be even worse though. Then if he's just like, well, don't you remember when we got engaged and all those bats came out? And
it would be like, no, I remember. I just wanted to know if you remember, if this was the world's weirdest coincidence. Just checking that you're still obsessed.
But even worse though, she's like, no, I don't remember that. And he's like, oh, I literally made it my whole thing.
Or if she turns the light and is like, who are you? Are you sure you're in the right room? Batman fights criminals.
Yeah, I did see the Riddler check in there down the. They go, really? No, asshole! I'm just joking around with you.
Oh, but after her little comeback to him, Batman sulks so much he literally just has to leave. She's destroyed the man. He's never going to recover. It's
good Batman practice is to just not speak when when he's not got anything to come back with. We've seen him humiliate himself earlier with his like on your stomach, arms spread. So you heard me, like earlier in the movie when he was proto Batman. I guess now he is just like he has nothing to say to that because he's just like what.
But that's the difference, right? Usually when he disappears into the night, it's from a place of strength and power. But this is the opposite. It's almost like, he's like a little kid. He doesn't know what to say. He's like, screw you.
No, you're dumb.
Yeah. There's actually a really good scene, speaking of the Riddler, weirdly enough, the episode Riddler's Reform, where Edward Nygma convinces the world that he's going like straight. He's going to be like, all right, I'm out of prison, but I'm completely legit now. And all like the upper crust people, for some reason, like they embrace him and they're like, oh no, this is our new friend, Edward Nygma.
That's
like,
exactly what would happen in real life.
Probably, yeah. So Batman's convinced, like, no, he's definitely still a criminal, though. I'm going to keep checking on him. And he breaks in to, like, in the middle of a party, he's like checking out Nygma's files or whatever. And Edward Nygma's kind of comes in and talking in the room, kind of smugly making fun of him. And then he reveals to the whole party's watching Batman. And they're all kind of snickering at him, going like, "Oh my god, he thinks like our friend Eddie's a criminal and stuff." And like Batman seems to be completely humiliated, and he's just like, "I'll be watching you." And he just like he times it with like a thunder and lightning strike, where he jumps out the window, and you just see the cape spread for a second, and then he's gone. And everyone's kind of like, they remember how cool Batman's supposed to be for a second. It's like, that's like, oh, I've saved face in this scenario. I was humiliated there for a second, but look at how cool I can exit a room.
This is almost like he tripped falling, like trying to jump out the window.
Yeah, this is very much like a...
I meant to do that. I was going to leave quietly anyway.
This thing, Alfred, get on my playlist, will you? Like his pain playlist. Get it loaded up in the car for me, please.
I gotta say, though, it would be really inconvenient for her if it turned out he forgot something and came back, because then he would just see her crying.
Imagine that. Oh, sorry, I just left my Batarang.
She already knows.
Ironically,
though,
the thing that's supposed to come back to me, I left it.
But she also knows, too, like, apparently he's watching me all the time, so I'm just like, am I crying safely now?
No, nothing she does is safe.
Does he know that I'm the Phantasm already? Can I change into the outfit? Like,
that's a good point. Hang on, he's stalking her and he knows everything she's doing except the fact she's the Phantasm.
Yeah,
he's got an incredible blind spot.
And at the very end, it turns out like, oh yeah, I knew the Phantasm all along. Like that wasn't a mystery.
Called it. I think the only person who does figure it out is the Joker. Like, he's the one who like legit figures that out. So he'd be like, "Oh, Patsy, you knew she was the Phantasm straight away, right?" Like, what?
Yeah, you knew that. Sure, yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally
obviously. I was just making sure that you knew too.
But that's a picture of her father.
Oh, I do get a bit sad though at the end of the minute here, like, you know, because she's held herself together. He's gone. Mm-hmm. But she's kind of hit a limit, and, you know, she drops her drink, bursts into tears.
Is it hardwood floors in this place, too? Is that glass smashes? Like, it's a full-on... like BBC sound effects, glass breaking sound effects.
I can't
It's just
predict.
the tension in the room that smashed it.
I can never predict glasses because I've dropped.
You're right, though.
I've dropped a glass on a stone floor, and it was fine. Right. I have slightly tapped a glass on the side of the sink, and it shattered into a million pieces. And it's like, what? So I think sometimes you just get lucky. I don't know.
I just
Glass
wonder
is
then,
either as strong as her nerves or as fragile as her nerves, depending on if it's the beginning or the end of this minute.
Oh, yeah. It's a roller coaster for her.
I was wondering then though, who's called in? Does she clean this herself, or is she like room service? Like, you know, bring up the maid. Or be like, Arthur, have you left yet? Like, I smashed a glass. Can you fix this for me?
You've got to do it yourself. Maybe it's the left wing person in me, but you know, you got to do it yourself. Don't be calling someone. You made that mess.
I don't know. I would totally do it myself.
Same.
I would never think to. But then she does come from, you know, a rich family, so she might be like, well,
That's what you do.
I'm not picking up the glass. You're crazy. And plus now it's going to be like the room's going to smell of vodka, I guess, the whole time.
Yeah.
'Cause-
I also wanted to. At first, I thought she was approaching a table to put her drink down on. Because of the way that it's drawn, the bedposts are drawn like on to the mattress.
Yeah.
So I assumed it was a table, and I was like, why is she laying down on a marble slab? And then it indented around her, and I realized it was her bed.
Have you never done that when you've drank vodka?
Maybe I just don't remember it because it wasn't rich person's vodka.
Yeah, well, it's dangerous. I woke up in the bath. So, you know, don't be doing
That's
it.
what I remember my first girlfriend at the university, and her bragging about her incredibly, because she was all about like fixing, like making sure good back health and all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
Okay.
So she basically used to lie on a marble slab every night. Like it was a mattress. It was just, it felt as if it was made of like oak. It was horrible. And so just every night lying next to her, just like, I just need to get out of this relationship just to get into a good
that's
mattress
the
again.
only reason you got rid of it.
And then she complained about my mattress. She's like, oh no, it's too comfy. Like, so what's the matter with you?
Yeah, that's the point, darling.
That tells me a lot about her.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, there's a reason I've not seen her in many, many years. And if I were to see her, of course, I would then surveil her and sneak into her to her hotel room and then stand by the lamp, glaring at her.
And stop her from drinking vodka poured out of a wine bottle.
So you don't want to be touching that. No.
Yeah. The only other note I did have is like I did briefly try to look into the history of lip reading. And didn't get much. Like it's just one of these, because it's not like particularly interesting. But apparently it's earliestly, that's not a word. The earliest attribution of it is to Ponce de Leon. The famed Spanish explorer apparently made a version of because back in the day, like people would refuse to teach deaf people and stuff. They were like the Christians were very much like, if you're deaf, it's a punishment from God. So no, you must be ostracized and all this kind of thing. You think the whole thing is about a guy who used to go around curing people, and they're still like, oh, you know, someone's got a problem, get rid of him. But it's very backwards thinking. But I was just brought it up though because you were talking about Florida so much earlier, and all the thing I know about Ponce de Leon is didn't he discover Florida? Or he's the guy who's like, he went out on escapades, and then he came back and said, we found a new state, it's called Florida. It happened.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm assuming every American knows every single detail about the entire history of the country, Alexia. Is that not true?
It says that he is widely credited with discovering Florida, but he is not actually the first European to reach there.
No.
And then I can't see what it says after that because that's where the wiki preview cuts off.
You should know this off the top of your head. You've got your country's new. Come on.
It is new.
And then now, though, I don't trust that he invented lip reading now either, because I'm sure probably somebody else did. And he's like, did you take credit for that yet? All right, then I do. That was me.
Did he invent the question mark?
No, but he did accuse chestnuts of being lazy.
Spent his summers in Rangoon doing luge lessons.
But yeah, at this point though of the week, Alexia, we always do ask the guests because Batman, BTAS, Batman the Animated Series, was such a major part of a lot of people's childhoods. We're asking the guests about their other childhood favorite animated shows. To see, obviously, I get a little vibe of Avatar: The Last Airbender from you thus far. But
Yeah, that's the one that I was going to bring up. That was the big one. My brother and I also really liked SpongeBob. That's not obscure or anything, but it was, I was around the age when a lot of the quote unquote Nickelodeon classics were starting to come on the air. So that was big when I was little. I remember when the Fairly Odd Parents first started airing.
Hey.
All those. I grew up on those cartoons, so those were very, very fun for me. But I think Avatar: The Last Airbender is my favorite.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it is kind of acclaimed as like. I always assumed it was a legitimate, it was like an anime thing.
No.
It looked so well animated, and then to find out, it's an American cartoon.
It's Americans trying to do an anime and somehow pulling it off.
Yeah,
they clearly really did their research, and also were like, listen, we're not Japanese, so we can't make an anime, but we can throw in a lot of homage, and they did it really well, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
and then now the demented plan of Netflix to we're just remaking it in live action.
Because that's what everyone needs. Right, because we've learned everything from Disney remaking every childhood movie ever in live action, and everyone loves it. We just cannot wait for the next one.
Well, you mentioning SpongeBob there. I mean, technically, I'm probably slightly too old for SpongeBob, but it became like a weird, quirky thing for people to get into. It's like I think stoners liked it and things like that. So I remember it was it was all the rage in America. So it wasn't on here yet. I imported DVDs from America of SpongeBob SquarePants, and I've still got at least 2 of them somewhere.
Is SpongeBob still being made? Isn't it?
I think so. Yeah,
they're still making new episodes. It's been 25 years or something now. It's been a long time.
It's approaching Simpsons levels.
That's crazy. I was at it was a generational crossover point because I was obviously really, really into cartoons as a kid, but that SpongeBob came along just as I was exiting from that. So it was that and Kim Possible and stuff. It's I'm aware of it. It was around. But things like Recess were my cutoff point.
See,
I saw a bit of Recess, Recess, thought it was good, and then it's but now I'm too old for this.
I'm the same with that. I never saw that. My last big one was Invader Zim.
And I know people who are really into Invader Zim as well, but they're 2 or 3 years younger than me, so I'm oh well, of course you were.
No, I recommend it though. There's an episode where he steals all of the other kids' organs because he decides, oh right, okay, what makes me different from the humans? Humans have more organs than me, so more organs equals more human. So he spends the whole episode stuffing his body with other people's organs until he's a bloated mess. And he keeps burping and intestines are coming out of his mouth.
But no, so because of things I'm aware of all the tropes of SpongeBob. I'm aware of just through cultural osmosis. But I think at the time when it was coming out, it's I'm starting to step out of this pool at this point. So it's the same thing with the Teen Titans show that came on. I've seen way more of Teen Titans Go, the new cartoon, than the really, really acclaimed show from the early 2000s. Because I was kind of out at that point.
Well, is that a Patreon thing for us to do? Go through it?
It could be. I know frequent guest Stephanie Palacino, massive fan of that Teen Titans show. So, but yeah. I mean, I'm all noted out for minute 42. So,
yes.
Unless anyone has anything else they want to, any final parting blows? Will you watch the rest of Mask of the Phantasm, Alexia? Or are you I'm good?
If I have the time, I got a lot going on.
It's very short, and you can cut 2 minutes out already because you already saw them. So.
That's true, but to be fair, I have spent 2.5 hours in front of this computer with you guys, so that's 2.5 hours of Mask of Phantasm viewing time gone.
That's true. You could have watched it twice in that time. That's how this podcast works. We talk about each episode is almost as long as the film.
Yeah, that would be a good thing. We have to talk about Mask of the Phantasm for the length of Mask of the Phantasm.
The length of the film.
3 times a week.
We could easily do that.
Oh, 100%. Definitely could do that.
But we won't do that today. We will head off into the dark,
only an hour and
dark
16.
night. I almost said we'll break the connection. That's our other show.
There you go.
Would you, one more time, like to tell people where they can find your wonderful work on the interwebs?
Sure. If you're interested in Titanic and stuff related to it, you can find my show, Titanic Talkline, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Otherwise, I have a new one coming out if you like Disney better. That's called Damsels Who Discuss, and you can hear me absolutely flip out over how boring early Disney movies are.
I mean, I'm into that, but I'm a bit of a Titanic head. I need to find them. I've got like death certificates and stuff, and blueprints of the ship. I've got all this kind of. I've got the first photo, like a printout of it of the first survivor getting rescued. I've got SOS telegrams. I've got all kinds of crap.
I think you need to come. You need to follow Niall's example and come on my show.
I absolutely. I'll find this first, because otherwise you'll be like, "Have you got all that stuff to read?" I'm like, "No, I haven't got it." Like, get off my show. Get off my show.
To be fair, though, I remember when I was on, there was Titanic was only glanced upon as a topic. I think we
mostly talked about
things.
Batman. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about Titanic. God damn it.
Well, fine. We'll just have to do it some other time.
Well, if you want to talk about Batman, you can come to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Find Batminute on all of those. And why don't you go to our network, Sleepy Charlie Media, on Patreon? For just a couple of dollars, you can get exciting bonus episodes. I don't know what's going to be the current thing when you hear this. We're probably still doing the Riddler comic, because it's not as bad as Batman 89 for its releases, but it's still taking a while. But do go and check all of that out, and join us again next time for more exciting Bat Minute action.
Next time, a vapor-enveloped villain arrives for Valestra's evisceration, but discovers the kill has been claimed by a clown on this occasion. It seems the jerry-rigged geriatric's heart will go on via a creepily constructed corpse bomb, but can a surprised phantasm exit the room before the callous cadaver goes kaboom? Come back for a boudoir obliteration next week, Batmites. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
Must have top,